Hey folks, welcome back to Military Forces Unleashed. Today we're taking off, literally, into the thrilling world of what could have been. Imagine a world where these 5 fighters not only existed but dominated the skies. These are the jets that could have changed history but never left the drawing board. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. But here's the kicker. Some of these planes were so advanced, they could have rewritten the rules of air combat. Others were just, well, let's call them ambitious failures. So, why did these incredible machines end up as nothing more than blueprints and prototypes? Let's dive in and find out. But here's the kicker. Some of these planes were so advanced, they could have rewritten the rules of air combat. Others were just, well, let's call them ambitious failures. So, why did these incredible machines end up as nothing more than blueprints and prototypes? Let's dive in and find out. Their creation, the Ho-229, was unlike anything else in the sky. It was a flying wing, a sleek bat-like aircraft with no tail, designed to be fast, stealthy, and nearly invisible to radar. Yes, you heard that right. Stealth technology in the 1940s. But before you start imagining squadrons of these bad boys dominating the skies, there's a catch. The project was plagued by delays, resource shortages, and the inevitable collapse of the Third Reich. So, what made the Ho-229 special? For starters, its design was revolutionary. The flying wing configuration reduced drag, allowing it to reach speeds of over 600 mph. And then there's the stealth factor. Tests conducted decades later on a surviving prototype revealed that the wooden construction and unique shape actually absorbed radar waves, making it one of the first true stealth aircraft. But here's the reality check. The Ho-229 was far from perfect. Its jet engines were unreliable and its range was limited. Plus, even if it had entered production, it's unlikely Germany could have built enough of them to make a difference. Still, imagine the shock on Allied pilots' faces if this thing had suddenly appeared in the skies over Europe. Talk about a game changer. While the Ho-229 was ahead of its time, it was also a victim of its own ambition. The technology simply wasn't ready, and the war ended before the Nazis could iron out the kinks. Critics might call it a pipe dream, but supporters see it as a glimpse into what could have been, a precursor to modern stealth fighters like the B-2 Spirit. Ultimately, the Ho-229 is a reminder that innovation often comes at a cost. It's not enough to have a great idea. You need the resources and timing to pull it off. And speaking of ambitious projects, our next fighter takes us to the height of the Cold War. Fast forward to the 1980s, when the Cold War was at its peak. The United States had just unveiled the F-22 Raptor, a 5th-generation stealth fighter that terrified the Soviet Union. In response, Mikoyan, the same company behind the legendary MiG-29, developed the Project 1.44, a futuristic jet designed to counter American dominance in the skies. Nicknamed the Flat Pack, this plane was supposed to be everything the Soviets dreamed of: fast, agile, and armed to the teeth. It featured thrust vectoring engines, internal weapon bays, and advanced avionics. On paper, it looked like the ultimate fighter. But as we'll see, looks can be deceiving. The Project 1.44 was a technological marvel, or at least it tried to be. With a top speed of Mach 2.5 and the ability to supercruise without afterburners, it was designed to outmaneuver anything the West could throw at it. It even had stealth features, though not as advanced as the F-22s. But here's the problem. By the time the first prototype flew in 2000, the Soviet Union was long gone, and Russia's economy was in shambles. Funding dried up, and the project was shelved. To make matters worse, the plane suffered from reliability issues and outdated electronics. In short, it was a classic case of too little, too late. Was the Project 1.44 a failure? Not entirely. It proved that Russia still had the engineering chops to compete with the West. But it also highlighted the challenges of developing cutting-edge technology in a crumbling empire. Critics argue that the plane was more hype than substance, while supporters see it as a missed opportunity to level the playing field. And speaking of missed opportunities, our next fighter takes us to Sweden, where a small nation dreamed big. In the 1970s, Sweden was determined to stay neutral in an increasingly polarized world. To do that, they needed a fighter that could hold its own against both NATO and Warsaw Pact forces. Enter the Saab 37 Viggen, a rugged yet innovative jet that became a symbol of Swedish ingenuity. But what many people don't know is that Saab had plans for an advanced version of the Viggen, a stealthier, faster variant that could have rivaled the best fighters of its time. Unfortunately, it never got off the ground. The advanced Viggen was designed to be a jack-of-all-trades. It could perform air superiority missions, ground attack runs, and even reconnaissance, all while evading enemy radar. Its delta wing and canard configuration gave it incredible maneuverability, and its modular design made it easy to upgrade. But here's the twist. Sweden couldn't afford it. Developing such a complex aircraft would have required massive investment, and the government decided to focus on cheaper alternatives instead. It's a classic case of ambition meeting reality and losing. Was the advanced Viggen a lost cause? Not necessarily. While it never saw the light of day, its design influenced future Saab projects, including the Gripen. Critics might call it a waste of resources, but supporters see it as a bold vision of what Sweden could have achieved. And now, let's shift gears to America, where one of the most controversial fighter competitions of all time took place. In the late 1980s, the U.S. Air Force launched the Advanced Tactical Fighter Program to develop a replacement for the aging F-15 Eagle. Two companies answered the call, Lockheed Martin with the YF-22 and Northrop with the YF-23. Both jets were incredible, but only one could win, and the loser was the YF-23. The YF-23 was a masterpiece of engineering. It was faster, stealthier, and more aerodynamic than the YF-22. Its diamond-shaped wings and lack of traditional tail fins made it nearly invisible to radar, and its engines were quieter than anything else in the sky. But here's the catch. The Air Force wanted more than just performance. They wanted a plane that could dogfight, and the YF-23's design prioritized stealth and speed over agility. In the end, the YF-22 won the competition, and the rest is history. Was the YF-23 a better plane? That's debatable. While it excelled in certain areas, it lacked the versatility of the YF-22. Critics argue that Northrop focused too much on stealth and not enough on practicality, while supporters see the YF-23 as a victim of politics and bureaucracy. And finally, let's wrap things up with a fighter that could have redefined aerial combat. Our final fighter takes us back to the 1950s, when the threat of Soviet bombers loomed large over America. To counter this, North American Aviation developed the XF-108 Rapier, a Mach 3 interceptor designed to shoot down anything that dared enter U.S. airspace. Equipped with advanced radar and long-range missiles, the Rapier was supposed to be the ultimate defender of the homeland. But like so many other projects on this list, it was canceled before it ever flew. The XF-108 was a technological marvel. It could fly faster and higher than any bomber of its time, and its radar system was years ahead of its competitors. But here's the problem. It was also incredibly expensive. With the rise of intercontinental ballistic missiles, the Air Force decided that interceptors were no longer worth the investment. Was the XF-108 a waste of money? Not necessarily. While it never entered service, its technology paved the way for future projects, including the SR-71 Blackbird. Critics might call it a relic of a bygone era, but supporters see it as a glimpse into what could have been, a guardian of the skies. At the end of the day, these fighters remind us that innovation is a double-edged sword. Some ideas are so far ahead of their time that they feel like they were plucked straight out of a sci-fi novel. Others, well, let's just say they were more ambitious than practical. But whether they were shelved due to budget cuts, political decisions, or technological limitations, one thing's for sure: they all have stories worth telling. Stories of human ingenuity, of nations pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and sometimes of dreams that were just too big for their era. Take the Horton Ho 229, for example. It wasn't just a plane. It was a glimpse into the future of stealth technology, decades before the term even existed. Or the Northrop YF-23, a jet so advanced that it still sparks debates among aviation enthusiasts today. These fighters weren't just machines. They were symbols of hope, fear, and ambition during some of the most intense periods of human history. But here's the real question. Which of these fighters do you think could have made the biggest impact? Would the Ho 229 have turned the tide of WWMTA? Could the YF-23 have redefined air combat as we know it? Or maybe the XF-108 Rapier would have been the ultimate guardian of the skies? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of what could have been, don't forget to hit that like button and share the video with your friends. Every click helps keep this channel flying high. Thanks for tuning in to Military Forces Unleashed. Your support means the world to us. It's what keeps this channel flying high and allows us to bring you content like this. Whether you're a longtime fan or a first-time viewer, we're thrilled to have you here. If you haven't already, consider subscribing so you can join us on our journey through the skies of history. And hey, if you've got any suggestions for future topics, or just want to geek out about military tech, drop a comment below. We read every single one of them. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep reaching for the skies. See you soon.